Have you ever wondered what happens when a company gets so big it almost becomes like its own country? That's basically what a megacorporation is, and they've been around longer than you might think. I've been fascinated by these massive organizations that seems to blur the line between business and government. In this first episode of Symposium 444, we're going to trace the evolution of megacorporations from their surprising origins to the corporate titans that will shape our world tomorrow. Everything started back in 1602 with the Dutch East India Company, the VOC. These guys weren't just another company, they created something revolutionary, the first publicly traded corporations with fixed stock shares. This was a game changer. For the first time, ownership of a company could be bought and sold as shares without having to dissolve the entire operation. This created the Amsterdam Stock Exchange, the world's first real stock market. But what made the VOC truly special was that it was the first sciendustrial complex in history. It perfectly captured how they combine technologies, science advancement with commercial interest. They were all over the world. It created the golden age of Netherlands. To really understand what makes a megacorporation, we need to look at three key criteria that VOC establish. First, they had techno-sciendustrial dominance. Their ships with advanced cannons were essentially the military tech of their day. Second, they had social and cultural control. They literally printed their own money that people accepted across regions. They minted gold coins, gold lingots, and different types of coins. Finally, they dominated essential resources, controlling the global spice trade and other valuable commodities. The VOC wasn't just a company. It could wage wars, establish colonies, and negotiate treaties with foreign powers. Governed by the Council of 17, their board of directors had an enormous power. They operated across dozens of countries throughout Asia and Africa. This wasn't just a business, it was something entirely new. In American history, Standard Oil under Rockefeller came close to megacorporation status. Even if it didn't fully tick all our boxes, at its height, Standard Oil controlled about 90% of oil refining and distribution in the US. What made Rockefeller's empire really interesting was how it combined oil and railway interests to control entire supply chains. While it had tremendous technological power and resource control, it didn't quite achieve the social and omnipresent dimension of a true megacorporation. Still, Standard Oil forced America to ask important questions about corporate power until today. To understand these entities more deeply, we need to look at some theoretical frameworks. Economist Alfred Eichner helped us understand these massive entities better in his 1976 book, The Megacorp and Oligopoly. Eichner showed how these huge corporations don't just participate in markets, they shape them. They don't just react to prices, they set them. Once a company reaches a certain size, it starts playing by different rules altogether. What's interesting about Eichner's work is how he showcased that these megacorps developed their own internal logic and decision-making processes that look more like government planning than traditional business management. In his book CLEER, Laurent Klötzer explores fictional corporate structure and their effects in societies in ways that theoretical papers just can't capture. It dives into the psychological and social impacts of living in a world dominated by these massive organizational structures. They are so big, we forget they exist. Klötzer's work bridges the gap between economic theory and the lived reality of existing within systems dominated by megacorporations. It examines questions of identity, freedom, and human value in a world where corporate logic has become the dominant force. Another portrait of megacorporations we can find in science fiction is Weyland Yutani from the Alien movies. The company that decided a killer alien was worth more than the lives of its employees. In its pursuit of the perfect organism, the control of resources, and space colonization, Mr. Weyland, that after merge with Yutani Corporation, embodies the cold calculation of profit over people. But we can find another example in Wall-E, with By and Large, which basically replaced government entirely and turned Earth into a garbage dump in the pursuit of profit. B&L represents the ultimate extension of corporate power, a pessimist world where the distinction between customer and citizen has completely disappeared. These fictional examples help us imagine what happens when our three megacorporations criteria, tech, sciendustrial control, social influence, and cultural domination, get pushed to their extreme. They aren't just cautionary tales, they are tough experiments about organizational hyperstructures taken to their logical conclusion. What really defines today's megacorporations is their incredible complexity. These aren't just big companies, they are hypercomplex organizational structure that operates across multiple countries, industries and domains at the same time. This hypercomplexity comes directly from integrating our three key factors: techno-sciendustrial, social and cultural. Their tech and science dominance creates intricate hypercomplex systems. Their social and cultural influence builds webs of relationships across governments and societies. Their resource control requires elaborate global supply chain. All this makes megacorporations completely different from regular businesses. They don't just maximize profit, they develop complex adaptive strategies that look more like the behavior of entire nations than traditional companies. In many ways, the megacorporation is one of humanity's most fascinating organizational innovations, combining the efficiency of markets with the power of states and the cultural influence of civilization. They are truly hypercomplex objects that are shaping our world in ways we are still trying to understand. Thanks for listening to the first episode of Symposium 444. This episode was brought to you by Robbie Conceptuel. It's 4:44, time to wake up.